What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of Bad Candy, anthology that actually came out in 2020, but we're getting to see for the first time now. So let's check it out. So I'd seen this pop up, I think last year even, at the festivals or something like that. And I was kind of curious to see, because in the trailer, I got to see some like pretty good makeup effects that I saw on some of the creatures and things that would be in this. Now, this is an anthology, so there's going to be about 3 or 4 segments that are all interconnected into one, kind of like one of the other anthologies that you may be aware of, like Trick or Treat, if you've ever seen that one, but with a way smaller budget. Essentially, the story on this one is that on a Halloween night in New Salem, 2 radio DJs, Chilly Billy and Paul, tell a twisted anthology of terrifying local myths that lead to a grim end for the small town residents. Now, of course, the radio DJs are the bigger spotlight, because you've got Chilly Billy, who is played by Corey Taylor of Slipknot, and you also have Zach Galligan, who was, of course, in Gremlins and Waxwork fame. This has been done before, of course, in other anthologies that are kind of like it, so it's kind of borrowing that sort of tale, which is that the radio DJs are telling the stories that are happening in this local town, while they are the sort of beeline, roll the wraparound to the entire anthology. If you remember William Shatner being Dangerous Dan in A Christmas Horror Story on the radio, it's similar to that format, and I would say probably a little less budget than that one too. This movie is directed by 2 people, Scott B. Hansen, who also does the cinematography in this movie. He actually has done Seven Dust, The Unforgiven, music video, and he also did The Possession Experiment, which is a full feature-length film. And we also get a co-director, Desiree Connell, who is actually, this is their first feature film. They've done a lot of production work and even some acting. So what did I think of this movie? Well, I actually wasn't expecting a whole lot going into this. I just saw some pretty great practical effects and thought, oh, okay, I like monster movies. I can get into this very easily. Plus, I also like short stories because it's a condensed plot into, one movie. This movie is about 1 hour and 50 minutes, so it is a little bit longer than your regular movie, but kind of makes sense when you're telling multiple different stories. There is 3 or 4 stories that are in this movie that are all pretty much within the same, realm of each other as far as quality. Obviously, your personal interest may like some of these better than others, but I thought they were pretty good. They weren't like as bad as I was expecting it to be. This is an indie budget and they don't have a ton of money to go around, but there's some great work in here. I mean, the acting is, it's not so great, but it's not exactly the worst thing either. It's definitely an indie movie, and you can tell by that. But there is a really great soundtrack to it that has not only metal, but industrial, plus dark synth that's going on in the background, which kind of helps push the movie along. And there is some gore in this movie too, so it's not actually all that bad. I actually kind of enjoyed this one. I thought I was going to go into a kind of like mediocre movie and think that there was no unique things about this movie, and in some cases it does kind of tread along the familiar, and I think that's okay when you're trying to keep all of these stories together. They go different places than I've seen. I don't want to spoil anything in it, but there is some pretty interesting stuff that happens in one of these that you're going to be like, Also, the cinematography was good, but there was a couple of moments with the lighting that I was like, but it's passable. It's not like it did the best they could, but there were some outside scenes that were well lit. That's just a minor gripe, really. I was in for the ride anyway. So I've seen some of the reviews on this movie, and some of these people are like giving it a 1 out of 10. And then you go to look at all their fucking scores that they've been giving over the last 10 years, and you find out 60% of their scores are 1s. Like, come on, man. What are you doing? Do you only watch Marvel movies and expect that kind of quality? I don't know what people are thinking. You have to kind of base it on, you know, an indie project and what it is doing with the money that it does. And you can't afford the best actors all the time. So you try to do what you can with what you got. And I think that these guys did a pretty good job. This is not a high renter. I wouldn't say that I would jump out and go see this movie right away. It is $6.99. It is a very seasonal movie to watch. So if you're looking for an anthology to watch around Halloween, this might not be a bad choice. But I probably will wait till it gets down to the $4 mark. But I don't mind them trying to make their money back. I just think that a lot of people are going to be on the more lower end of this movie just because of some of the acting and the fact that it's an indie film in general. I, however, am a horror fan, and I've seen everything from the dumpster all the way to the fucking top, and I try to base that around what these movies kind of are familiar with and what I got from it. Now, something like Trick or Treat, which I think is, you know, flawed but good, a really good film, solid film, this is kind of similar in that regard, only not as good. So I would probably give this movie like a 6 out of 10, maybe even a 6.5. I would say it's worth a watch, whether you want to own it or not. I personally wouldn't mind owning a copy for myself. I would pop this on every now and then to kind of check out some anthologies, kind of do some different things with the stories that I liked, kind of touches upon your imagination, specifically right off the bat in the first one, and kind of wraps it around to the whole story. All of these stories are very interconnected to one another, and it definitely feels like you're part of this whole town, even though I'm sure, you know, Corey Taylor and Zach fucking shot their shots completely separately, and then they went on and did all their other segments together. But yeah, only 2 directors, plus those 2 directors actually wrote this whole thing together. I think if you keep your expectations somewhat low and realize that you're going to watch an indie film where they can't spend $120 million to make Mr. 1 out of 10 on every movie happy, then I think you'll enjoy this movie. Is it the greatest thing I've ever seen? No, clearly not, but I think it's a pretty decent effort for an indie film like this, and I'd be surprised to see how much they spent on this film as a whole. Probably pulled a few favors. Maybe they know some people in the industry. I mean, obviously they did a video for Seven Dust, so maybe they met Corey along the way. And by the way, Corey has acted in other films. He's just not as big of a role as he probably had in this one. I haven't seen everything that he's done, but that's the gist I get. But yeah, I thought it was kind of fun. There was some really good creatures in this movie, some that, you know, didn't require to be full-on creatures, some that will remind you of kind of the 90s and like Puppet Master or Full Moon Pictures, where you knew that these things were puppets, but you just kind of enjoyed it for what it was. Plus, there's quite a few creative choices that they made in this film. Could see past some of the CGI flaws and things like that. I thought of it as a utilization of trying to make the scene better, and it did. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say about this movie. I thought each of these stories were pretty interesting. One was involving a corpse, and yeah, that was interesting. I kind of had some weird thoughts during that. And I'm sure a few younger gentlemen or ladies even might think that too. So, but I would love to hear what you guys think about this movie and what your thoughts are about seeing it, whether you are going to see it, whether you're going to wait till it goes to a streaming service. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button and the little bell icon, as I always tell you, so you know when I got a brand new video coming out. I got more in the tube. I'm working on Voidtober for October, guys. Voidtober is going to be huge this year. We've got shirts, we've got mugs, we've got all kinds of stuff, all these different designs, some of which have been donated to us. So we got a lot of stuff if you want to help out the podcast. So stay tuned for that. I'll let you know more on the channel. But as always, long live the void.